In the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, nestled between towering pines and craggy cliffs, lay the small town of Ravens Hollow. Despite its picturesque facade, whispers of an ancient evil lingered in the air, passed down through generations like a dark inheritance. It was on a cold autumn night that Sarah Wilson, a young journalist eager to make a name for herself, arrived in Ravens Hollow. Drawn by rumors of supernatural occurrences and unexplained disappearances, she set out to uncover the truth behind the town's sinister reputation. As Sarah settled into her quaint bed and breakfast, the chill of the night seeped through the walls, sending shivers down her spine. Determined to unravel the mysteries of Ravens Hollow, she set out into the darkness, her flashlight cutting through the shadows like a beacon of hope. Her first stop was the local tavern, where she hoped to gather information from the townsfolk who had long called Ravens Hollow home. But as she entered the dimly lit establishment, she felt a sense of unease wash over her, as if the very walls were watching her every move. Ignoring the feeling of dread gnawing at her insides, Sarah approached the bar and struck up a conversation with the bartender, an elderly man with haunted eyes and a voice like gravel. "What brings you to Ravens Hollow, miss?" he asked, his gaze piercing through the darkness with an intensity that made Sarah's blood run cold. "I'm a journalist," she replied, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "I'm here to investigate the strange occurrences that have been plaguing the town." At the mention of the town's dark secrets, the bartender's expression hardened, and he glanced nervously over his shoulder as if afraid of being overheard. "You do well to mind your own business, miss," he warned, his voice barely above a whisper. "There are things in this town that are best left undisturbed." But Sarah was undeterred. Ignoring the bartender's ominous warning, she pressed him for more information, determined to uncover the truth no matter the cost. As the night wore on, Sarah wandered the deserted streets of Ravens Hollow, her footsteps echoing through the darkness like a lonely heartbeat. The town seemed frozen in time, trapped between the past and the present, its secrets buried deep within the shadows that lurked around every corner. It was then that Sarah heard it, a faint whispering that seemed to emanate from the very depths of the earth. Drawing closer, she followed the sound to a secluded alleyway, where she stumbled upon a hidden entrance leading into the mountainside. With a sense of trepidation, Sarah descended into the darkness, her flashlight cutting through the gloom as she navigated the winding tunnels that lay hidden beneath Ravens Hollow. As she delved deeper into the earth, the whispers grew louder, their eerie melody echoing off the stone walls like a haunting refrain. And then, just as she thought she could go no further, Sarah emerged into a vast cavern illuminated by a faint blue light. Before her stood a sight that chilled her to the core, a circle of hooded figures chanting in unison, their voices rising and falling in a hypnotic rhythm that seemed to warp reality itself. As Sarah watched in horror, the figures turned as one, their eyes blazing with an otherworldly light as they fixed their gaze upon her. And in that moment, she knew that she had stumbled upon something far more sinister than she could ever have imagined. With a cry of terror, Sarah turned and fled, her heart pounding in her chest as she raced through the tunnels in a desperate bid to escape the darkness that threatened to consume her. But no matter how fast she ran, the shadows pursued her, their whispers growing louder with each passing moment until they filled her mind with a cacophony of madness. And then, just as she thought she could run no further, Sarah stumbled upon a hidden chamber at the heart of the cavern, a chamber filled with ancient artifacts and forbidden knowledge. With trembling hands, she reached out and grasped a weathered tome bound in black leather, its pages filled with cryptic symbols and arcane incantations. As she flipped through the pages, Sarah felt a surge of power coursing through her veins, awakening something primal and terrible that lay dormant within her soul. And in that moment, she made a choice to embrace the darkness and become one with the shadows that whispered her name. As dawn broke over Ravens Hollow, the townsfolk awoke to find the streets deserted and the bed and breakfast abandoned. And though they searched high and low for Sarah Wilson, she was never seen again. Some say she was consumed by the darkness that lurked within the shadows of Ravens Hollow. Others believe she found a way to harness its power and ascend to a higher plane of existence. But one thing is certain, her story lives on, a cautionary tale of the dangers that lie hidden beneath the surface of even the most idyllic of towns. And as the shadows lengthen and the whispers grow louder, the people of Raven's Hollow know that the darkness is always watching, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to wander into its grasp. Months had passed since Sarah Wilson disappeared into the depths of Raven's Hollow, leaving behind a town shrouded in fear and uncertainty. With each passing day, the whispers grew louder, their haunting melody echoing through the streets like a mournful dirge. Among the townsfolk, rumors swirled of strange occurrences, of shadowy figures glimpsed out of the corner of one's eye, of eerie voices that seemed to speak from beyond the grave, of nightmares that left a lingering sense of dread long after waking. But despite their fears, life in Raven's Hollow went on, its inhabitants clinging to a fragile semblance of normalcy as they went about their daily routines. And yet, beneath the surface, a sense of unease lingered, like a storm cloud gathering on the horizon. It was on a cold winter's night that the first sign of trouble appeared, a series of strange symbols etched into the walls of an abandoned house on the outskirts of town. At first glance, they seemed like nothing more than random scratches in the wood, but upon closer inspection, it became clear that they formed a pattern that bore a striking resemblance to the arcane symbols found within the tome Sarah had discovered in the hidden chamber beneath Raven's Hollow. As word of the symbols spread, panic gripped the town, and whispers of dark magic and forbidden rituals filled the air. Some believed that Sarah had returned from beyond the grave to exact her revenge upon those who had wronged her, while others feared that something far more sinister had been unleashed upon Raven's Hollow, a force beyond human comprehension, hungry for power and willing to stop at nothing to achieve its goals. In the midst of the chaos, a sense of foreboding settled over the town like a thick fog, obscuring the truth and casting doubt upon even the most steadfast of beliefs. And as the days turned into weeks and the weeks turned into months, Raven's Hollow descended further into madness, its once vibrant streets now haunted by shadows that whispered of things best left forgotten. As the darkness continued to spread, a sense of desperation took hold of the townsfolk, driving them to seek out answers to the questions that plagued their minds. And so, it was on a moonless night that a group of brave souls gathered in the town square, their faces grim with determination as they prepared to confront the evil that lurked within Raven's Hollow. Among them was Jacob Hawthorne, a local historian with a keen interest in the occult, who had spent years studying the dark history of the town in search of answers. With him stood Emily Carter, a young woman whose sister had been among the first to disappear, her fate still unknown to this day. Together, they formed a plan to perform a ritual that would summon the spirits of the past and compel them to reveal the truth behind the darkness that gripped Raven's Hollow. Armed with candles, incense, and ancient incantations, they set out to the abandoned house where the symbols had first appeared, their hearts heavy with trepidation but their resolve unshaken. As they entered the dilapidated building, a chill wind swept through the air, sending shivers down their spines as they ventured deeper into the darkness. The walls seemed to close in around them, the air thick with the scent of decay and despair. But despite the oppressive atmosphere, they pressed on, their footsteps echoing through the empty corridors like a drumbeat of defiance. And then, at last, they reached the heart of the house, a crumbling chamber lit only by the flickering glow of their candles. With trembling hands, Jacob began to chant the incantations, his voice rising and falling in a haunting melody that seemed to echo off the walls of the chamber. And as he spoke the words of power, Emily and the others joined in, their voices blending together in a chorus of desperation and hope. For what felt like an eternity, they continued to chant, their words weaving a tapestry of magic that stretched out into the darkness, reaching across the veil that separated the world of the living from the realm of the dead. And then, just as they reached the climax of the ritual, something stirred in the shadows, a presence that radiated with an otherworldly power that sent a shiver down their spines. With a sense of dread, they watched as the shadows coalesced into a figure clad in tattered robes and surrounded by an aura of darkness that seemed to swallow the light itself. And as they gazed upon the spectral form before them, they knew that they had succeeded in summoning something far more powerful than they could have ever imagined. As the figure stepped forward into the flickering light of the candles, its features became clear, a face twisted with rage and sorrow, its eyes burning with an intensity that pierced through the darkness like twin flames. "I am the guardian of Raven's Hollow," the spirit spoke, its voice echoing through the chamber like a thunderclap. "For centuries, I have watched over this town, protecting it from the forces of darkness that seek to consume it." The townsfolk listened in awe as the spirit revealed the truth behind the darkness that had plagued Raven's Hollow for so long, a darkness born from the sins of the past, a darkness that threatened to engulf the town in its malevolent embrace. But as the spirit spoke, a sense of unease settled over the group, for they knew that the guardian's power alone would not be enough to banish the darkness that had taken root within Raven's Hollow. And so, they pleaded with the spirit for guidance, asking what they could do to save their town from the fate that awaited it. "The key to defeating the darkness lies within each of you," the guardian replied, its voice filled with wisdom and sorrow. "You must confront the shadows that lurk within your own hearts, for only then will you be able to banish the darkness that threatens to consume Raven's Hollow." With those words, the spirit faded away into the darkness, leaving behind a sense of purpose and determination in its wake. And as the townsfolk emerged from the abandoned house, they knew that they had been given a chance to confront their fears and overcome the darkness that had plagued their town for so long. Armed with newfound resolve, the people of Raven's Hollow set out to confront the darkness that had taken root within their midst. They searched high and low, delving into the darkest corners of their souls in search of the strength and courage they would need to banish the shadows that threatened to consume them. But as they ventured deeper into the heart of the darkness, they encountered obstacles at every turn, temptations that lured them off the path of righteousness, doubts that gnawed at their resolve, and fears that threatened to overwhelm them. It was then that Emily Carter, spurred on by the memory of her lost sister, made a decision that would change the course of their journey forever. With a sense of determination burning in her heart, she set out alone into the heart of the darkness, armed with nothing but her courage and her faith in the power of love to conquer even the greatest of evils. And as she faced down the shadows that lurked within her own soul, she was met with a revelation that would shake her to her very core and force her to confront the truth of her own past. For deep within the recesses of her mind, Emily found herself face to face with a darkness that she had long denied, a darkness born from the guilt and shame of a childhood spent in the shadow of her sister's disappearance. But as she embraced the darkness and accepted it as a part of herself, she felt a sense of liberation wash over her, a sense of freedom that allowed her to confront the shadows that lurked within Raven's Hollow with a newfound sense of purpose and determination. As Emily emerged from the darkness, she found herself surrounded by the people of Raven's Hollow, their faces filled with hope and determination as they prepared to face their greatest challenge yet. Together, they ventured deep into the heart of the darkness, armed with nothing but their courage and their faith in the power of love to conquer even the greatest of evils. And as they confronted the shadows that lurked within their midst, they were met with a fierce resistance, a resistance born from the darkness itself, determined to protect its hold on Raven's Hollow at any cost. But the people of Raven's Hollow would not be deterred, for they knew that the fate of their town hung in the balance. And so, they fought with all their strength and all their might, their hearts filled with the hope that they could overcome even the darkest of adversaries. And then, just when all seemed lost, a miracle occurred. The darkness began to recede, its hold on Raven's Hollow weakening with each passing moment. And as the light of dawn broke over the horizon, the shadows faded away, leaving behind a town bathed in the warm embrace of sunlight and hope. As the people of Raven's Hollow emerged from the darkness, they knew that their journey was far from over. But with the darkness banished and the town restored to its former glory, they were filled with a sense of pride and determination, knowing that they had faced their fears and emerged victorious. And as they looked to the future, they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united in their determination to ensure that the darkness never again took hold of their beloved Raven's Hollow.